Hey everyone, hope you guys are doing good here. Looks like we have a few people already loaded into the room. Thank you all for joining. We are going to get started at the top of the hour, so just going to give it about 1 to 2 more minutes for people to start joining into the room, and then we'll kick it off. But glad to have you guys all here. Where are you guys joining us from? All right. Montreal, UK. Nice. Guys all over the world here. I'm based in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, so I'm East Coast. Maryland. Oh, we're close, Paula. All right, guys, going to kick it off here at the top of the hour. Going to make sure I have everything ready, and we will get it started. All right, everyone. Well, hello and welcome to Learn Kartra Live. My name is Alex. If you haven't been to one of these before, I typically run and host these, but I'm also joined by Shannon and Amanda. They're going to be in the chat feed. So if you guys have any questions, you can interact with them there. If this is your first time joining us for one of these, we usually start with a live demonstration followed by an open Q&A. So throughout the presentation, just feel free to drop any questions that you have in the chat feed, and we'll be sure to get to them all after the actual demonstration. Also, a recording of this session will be sent to everyone that registered afterwards, so you don't have to worry about taking notes. You can just sit back, relax, and watch the recording afterwards. And without further ado, let's jump into today's topic, which is going to be 7 tips or 7 simple tricks to make the most of Kartra's page builder. And you can see these tips on the screen. We know that everyone isn't a page building or marketing pro, but that doesn't mean page building has to be complicated. We've put together a simple list of some powerful tools to really help you elevate your designs, and you can see that list on the screen there. And they range from like clean and subtle details to bold visuals that pop. And these 7 simple tricks can transform your page in a big way, right? And let's open the Kartra page builder real quick so that I can show you guys basically the page we'll be using here. So bear with me 1 second. And this page I actually pulled from one of our templates. So if you guys like the way that this page looks and you want to use it for yourselves, all you have to do is when you're choosing a new page in the page builder, just use the page filter page type and look for landing pages. It should be one of the first few options there. But at the top of the page, I actually added a section for a slide presentation. So this is what I'll be kind of going through and showing you guys for today's lesson. So just disregard this slot up here. But yeah, let's jump into our first tip here, which is going to be to use boxes for better layout flexibility. And boxes are layout containers that you can use to organize and group content on your page. So think of them kind of like digital frames or building blocks that help you structure your content. There are kind of 3 main ways that you can use boxes in your page design, and let's go over them real quick now. So you'll see we're in our page builder here, and to access a box, all you have to do is go to components on the left-hand side and go over to the boxes category. And you'll see there are a few box options to choose from, depending on how you want to organize your content, right? Basically, how many columns does the box have for you to put your content in there? Now, let's just keep things simple with a basic square box. And the first way to really use boxes is in a section like this. You can see like we have a button over here and a nice little title, but we also have our features on the right-hand side. You can make certain sections of a page pop out by using a box that has a different colored background than the background that you already have. So if we go in and we grab our box component here, and I'll drag that into our page, all we have to do is simply drag and drop the content that we want to go into the box. So I'll drag our headline, I'll drag our text content, and then I will drag the button in here. And you can see it kind of has that default gray color. So to edit it, we'll just make sure that the box is highlighted. You'll see this bundle word pop up. That means you are highlighting the box. Click on it and hit the Edit Style button, and you'll look for the background color option under the Default Style tab. And this background color option will just change it to white to just make it pop against the background. And you'll always want to hit the Apply button to make sure that any changes you make are being applied. And now you can see we have a box that is kind of bringing the content to the forefront, right? It makes it pop. Our eye is drawn right to this section, and we can, click the button to explore the benefits. And then all of those benefits are kind of on the side if people do want to get into them, but their focus really should be here because this is, the message that we want them to see. The other way that you can use boxes, or the second way, is to organize content. So if you are someone, like if we scroll down here, you can see there are a few testimonials on this page, and they're all separated into a different box. This just helps you with your page organization, right? When people are kind of going through your page and reading all of the things that you have to offer, if it's just a lot of text and images, they can kind of look jumbled or kind of step on each other's toes in a little sense. So giving all of your kind of different topics a place to breathe and a specific outline just makes it easier for people coming to your page to see all of the things associated with that, right? They can see all of your individual testimonials and easily recognize that they're all from a different person, right? The other way that a lot of people use boxes for these are things like features. So I'm going here to the template gallery here for sections. And if we go over to the features templates, you can see there's a bunch of layouts for you, and some of them are using boxes as well. So you can kind of choose these different designs, but again, the boxes are just one way to make content pop, especially if it's long listed content. The other way that you can see boxes are used are for pricing tables. So like if you are selling multiple products on a page or one product that has different price points, you can put each of those price points into its own box to kind of give it its own separate category so that people know, okay, this is all the information associated with one plan versus another. And then the third way to use boxes is kind of like a little secret tip way to use them is going to be to organize content that you have on a page. So you can see here, this column up here this section up here has two columns. The left column has our image and the right column has our text and this button. And typically you can't do something like this where you have an image next to text, because when you're adding things to a column, it's just going to be stacked one on top of the other. But if you want to create something like this where you have an image side by side text within a column, you can use a box. So if we go back to our components and we go to boxes, this is where the other box options come in, right? Because we want to choose a design that is going to give us, let's make something like this, right? So we have a smaller space on the left side for our image and more space on the right side for our text. We'll drag this one in, and then we can just add our image to the left side here. And then we'll drag some text in for the right side. But you can see right now we still have this box showing in the background. All you have to do is increase the transparency. So we'll edit this box. And then when we go to our background color again, you have this transparency slider. And if you turn this all the way down to where it shows 0 as that fourth number, that's how you know it's completely transparent. And if you hit apply, it is going to disappear. So you don't see the box itself on the page, but you just see the image and the text content beside it. Of course, we could change our image if we wanted to. We can change our text. Really just comes down to, your specific design. Let me go ahead and choose an image here. Let's choose this nice little ladybug. Okay, apply. And now you can see we have our image next to text. We could, edit our text if we wanted to make it look a little nicer and prettier. But really, it's just kind of showing you guys how to organize your content there using boxes. And those are going to be the three main ways that you'll use boxes on a page. Again, highlighting certain things that you want to bring to the forefront, going to be organizing long list content that you have, like features, testimonials, any sort of pricing plans. And then the last way is going to be to structure content within a page. So if you want things side by side, or you want things within a column to have multiple rows, this is the way to do it with boxes. All right, and that concludes our first tip. We're going to move on to our next one now, which is going to be to round corners for softer designs. And this may sound like a kind of a very simple tip, but it really can make an overall visual change to your page. And it really depends on your brand style, right? Because rounded corners can give your page a smoother look than sharp edges, but it also, goes off the emotion that you want to provide people when they're coming to your page. Now, for some people, rounded edges might be the best option for their branding, but sharp corners can also be that for some people as well, right? Just depends on kind of the feeling that you want to evoke when people are coming to your page. But rounded corners can also draw attention to buttons on your page by creating a shape that stands out from boxes and images. And what that means is, like, on a page, typically you have a lot of square items that were round items. You don't typically have these pill-shaped buttons. So when people see this pill shape, it's kind of like a different shape from everything else on your page, and it draws attention to those buttons. And let's go into how to round corners. So you can see we have this box that we added to our page earlier. What we'll want to do is just make sure that we are getting the content in there. And let me just see, going in here. So if we go to our box, hit edit, you can see that we have our corners below the background color option, right? So here, and you have one section for each corner of that box. So basically the 0 is showing you that the corners are squared out. There is no rounding to them at all. If you want to add rounding, all you have to do is increase this value. And the more that you increase it, the more round that your corners are going to be. So for example, let's change all of these to 10 pixels just to show you guys how this comes across. And you can see, yes, we have rounding on the edges of our box, but it's not very round, right? It's just a very subtle edge. But if we keep increasing this value, let's say we make them all 30 pixels and hit apply. Now we have larger rounding on all the sides of our box here to kind of give it that nice rounded look. And you can do this for boxes on your page. You can also do this for buttons. And images as well. So like if we go up to our image here that we added earlier, this little ladybug, and we wanted to round the edges, all we had to do was edit it and make sure we go to the style tab. It's always going to be in the style tab. And we'll change our corners to 30 to match our box here. And then we hit apply, you can see that our image has our rounded corners. Something else that you can do that's cool with images is you see our image down here, how this is like completely circular. If you have a square image that you added to a page where all the sides are the same length, you can round the corners completely to make that a circular image. So for example, if we go in here back to our style tab, and let's just say, let's make it 100 pixels instead of the 30. Apply. Now you can see that it's completely rounded. Now this image isn't a perfect square because you can see there's some space in the middle, but if it was, right, you would have a perfect circle once you round all the corners. So again, this really only works if you have a perfectly square image. Anything else like a rectangular image, just go through and round the corners on it to give it those rounded edges. The other area that you can do is for the buttons, like we mentioned earlier. This pill shape is a great way to kind of add a distinction to your buttons on your page. But if you want to change that, there are actually tons of button templates. So if we go to components and over to buttons, you can see there are a bunch of options here. So we can choose a one with subtle rounded edges or a fully rounded edge, or maybe we want none with, some with square edges. It really depends, again, on your style and, the overall design that you are bringing to your page. And you can manually change them. So if we have this button here on our page and maybe later we decide that we don't want it to be pill shaped, we can always go back and change our corners on this button as well, because those options are available to us. So you're not locked into the button template that you choose. You can always change it on the fly if you end up, wanting a different button in the future. And that is going to conclude our second tip. So rounding corners, again, really just depends on your brand style. And what do you guys prefer? Do you prefer rounded edges? Do you prefer sharp corners? It really, again, I feel like it varies based on the industry and, the type of content that you have available. All right, now let's scroll back up to our slides so we can go to our next tip, which is spacing elements for consistent designs. And this may seem like another simple one, but good consistent spacing lets everything on your page breathe. This helps get rid of clutter on your page and gives your page a clean, professional look. Because when you're building a page, there are two categories of spacing that you should be aware of. The first is going to be margins, and the second is padding. And I'll go over the difference between them at first, because this might not be something that all of you are familiar with. But let's just go into the page builder so I can show you guys a visual of what I'm talking about. So if we have this text box here and we click on it and we were to edit the style, you can see that we have a margin here that we can edit. A margin is going to be the amount of space outside of something. So it's going to be the distance basically from one thing to another. So if our thing here is going to be our text box, the margin is going to be the amount of space from this top of this text box to where the section starts, and the bottom of this text box to where our next text box is. It's basically this little space in between these two text boxes. If we were to edit this, and we can see that right now there is a 20 pixel space. Let's increase this to 40, and you can see it's adding more space between these different items. So we can just, continue to do that on our page. And a good idea is to just have consistent spacing on your page, right? If I have 40 pixels of space between one item, maybe I'll make the spacing between every item that 40 pixels so that things look intentional, consistent, and professional. Now, the other area where you will see different the padding is going to be within sections and within boxes. So let's go back down to this box that we made again. And if we edit it, the padding is going to be the kind of the border space. So it's going to be the amount of space from the edges of the box to where the content starts. And if we were to edit our box again, we can go over to the padding section down here. So we have our margin like we do. This would be the space above the box and the space below the box, but the padding is going to be all of the space within that box. Right now it's set to 25. Let's keep things consistent by making it 40 all around and hit apply. And now you can see we have more space from around all the edges of our box here. But it might look a little wonky because it looks like we have extra space at the bottom, right? Even though we did 40 on all edges, it doesn't really look consistent. Well, that leads me to my extra tip, which is to avoid creating double space. So if you have this extra space here, it's probably because we have a margin below our button that is affecting the space. So we have 40 pixels around the edge, but if we edit our button, you can see we have 30 pixels below the button. So if we just change this to 0, and hit apply, you can see now we have even space around all the edges of our boxes. You could do this the same way by making the margin here 40 pixels and making the bottom padding of the box 0 pixels, right, to get that 40 space. So there's kind of multiple ways that you can add space since there's a lot of different items on your page. So it's just going through, using your eye, seeing what looks pleasing. If something just looks a little off, it's probably because you added double space somewhere and you just have to remove it from some item. And it's always a good last step, right? Just add everything to your page. And then once you're kind of ready to launch, go through the page, make sure all the spacing is consistent. Just adds that extra little touch of professionalism and intent behind your design. Something else I will mention too is that you do have section spacing, right? So you can see we have all this space from the top of our section line to where our content starts, which would be this box. And then on our right column would be these icons. And then from the bottom of our box to the bottom of the section. To change this space, you'll need to edit the section. So you'll click the scroll or the cog wheel on the side and hit edit. And what we can do is just change our padding. So right now it's 100 pixels. Let's just make it, 200 so that you guys can see the difference here. We'll make our bottom 200, right? And now you can see we have a lot more space from the top of our page to where our content starts and the bottom to where the next section begins. So that's how you're going to change the space within an actual section. It's going to be the section padding within the section itself. And hopefully this taught you something new there, right? I think spacing is really something that a lot of people overlook, and a lot of the templates have their own spacing already in there. So it's not something that you actually have to actively think about, but it's always good to keep your spacing consistent, right? Because that's really going to improve the overall readability of your page. You don't want any content smushed together, and you want to keep things consistent. So if you have 40 pixels of space in one section, have that 40 pixels in another section so that it all looks, the same, right? All right, and this is going to take us to our next tip, which is going to be tip number 4 of using dynamic backgrounds for high energy designs. So this might be something that a lot of you may not know that Kartra is capable of, but you can have animated backgrounds within your pages. So unlike static images, right, this page pretty much has a static image in every background. If you add in background that has subtle animations or video loops, it can really make your page feel more engaging and memorable. It can also contribute to the overall mood of a page or the feeling that somebody gets when they're visiting it. So there are a few ways that you can kind of use background videos. You can do something a little more subtle. And to edit the background, we're going to just edit the section that we want to move. So over here, we can edit this section here at the top. And let's choose a background. So if you have and for this to kind of clarify, you can use GIF files. It would be under the image category if you're using a GIF, however you want to pronounce it. And then under the video file, you can add a video as well. It's going to loop, so just make sure that it's only a few seconds long if you're going to be going that route. Now, if we go in here and let's select a video to use, let's choose something just subtle that adds some motion to our page, and we hit apply. And you can see it's just a moving gradient that just adds some motion and kind of, a little pizzazz to the page, right? Something that a lot of pages just don't have. And the slow motion kind of evokes the feeling of calmness, whereas if you have a background image that's very fast, it can create that kind of motion. So always think about the feeling that you want to evoke when people are coming to your page, because the dynamic backgrounds really contribute to that. Now, you can see when we added this background, it kind of made our text look a little hard to see, right? So you always have this video opacity option, and the same is with the images as well. You'll have the image opacity. So we turn this down to something like 40%. You can see now it makes everything a little easier to see because it just increases the transparency on our background. So that's something that you can use if your background becomes a little too overwhelming. Another good option for a background is, like in this section here, we are promoting like claim your free coaching session, right? It's kind of a nice, exciting headline. So if we want to add to that excitement, we can go in here and choose something like this that has, some sparkles, and now we can't see it too well. So let's increase the opacity. And just makes it feel special, right? Like, oh, this is a nice upcoming release, and I really want to claim that free coaching session. And it just adds to that little, kind of showcase feel of it. Or if you're someone that is, wanting to just add a full video to your background, you can do that as well. So like, say you're a travel agent and you want to make people, feel like they are on vacation when they step on your page, right? You can add something like this where you have a nice beach in the background and some waves to really add to the overall aesthetic of your page. And, when you're adding videos like this, it can really affect the content on your page. So like, right, even with the opacity turned down, we are still having a hard time reading what we have. Well, let's take our tips from earlier of adding a highlight box to kind of make it stand out. So we'll add our box in here, and then we can drag our headline content in. We'll drag our text content in and our form placeholder. Then we can edit our box and make it stand out by making it white and fixing all of the padding around the edges. And then maybe we add some corners to it as well. Hit apply. Oh, missed this corner here. Apply, and now we have a kind of nice intro headline where we have a nice, background image, and then our content is still popping and readable on the top. So just some food for thought for you guys, right? It's just kind of combining all of these tips to contribute to the overall aesthetic of your page. And let's go on to our next tip, which is going to be number 5, adding countdown timers to drive urgency. So has anyone here ever used a countdown timer before? If so, if you want to share what you used it for, that would be great to kind of give other people an idea of, what they can be used for. But countdown timers are clocks that tick down to a deadline. And by showing time running out, you really encourage people to take action before it's too late. And the best ways to use countdown timers are to kind of highlight limited time offers or any sales promotions that you have, to boost registrations for an event, and to build anticipation for an upcoming launch. Those are some kind of 3 basic ways to use them. And to add a countdown timer to a page, all you have to do is go over to components. So let's say we want to this offer that we have right here for this claim your free coaching session, it's limited. So we'll go over to our components here and we'll go down to the widgets section down at the bottom, and you'll see countdowns as one of the options in there. If we click that, we have a bunch of templates to choose from. If you have a dark background that you want to add it to, I would choose one of the darker options because it has white text and it might be hard to see on a light background. Since we're adding it to this white background here, we can scroll down and find all of the light templates. So I'll just choose one of these and add it to our page here. And then to edit the countdown timer itself, you will just edit the style. And we'll change this to say maybe our offer expires any week. So we're going to say on October 17th at 12 a.m., the offer is no longer available. And we can hit apply. And now this countdown timer will count down to this date and this time that we entered here. You can also redirect users when the countdown reaches a certain time. So say maybe you have a special sales page and that sales page is only available while the offer is available. And then once that offer is done, once that countdown reaches, you can redirect everyone to your main sales page that doesn't have the offer available. Or maybe you send them somewhere else. Just a bunch of different options that are available when it comes to the countdown timer, including the ability to set countdowns based on landing date or tag subscriptions or different actions that people are taking. But for this, you can see it's not going to show the countdown in the actual page builder itself. But if we were to preview this page, we open that here. You can see our countdown timer is now going down to that October 17th at midnight. So just gives people that are coming to your page a little visual of how much time they have to take before a specific offer leaves them. And it just kind of enhances that little, human psyche of FOMO, right? When people see a time and they have a limited amount of time to kind of interact or do something, they don't want to miss out on that opportunity. So it's just a little extra visual nudge that people see when they're coming to your page that may increase your conversions in the long run. And again, this is an example of like a limited time offer use. Maybe if you have an upcoming event, like a webinar, like we have today, or you're hosting a workshop or something like that, you can have the registration limited to a certain amount of time and have a countdown on those pages. Or if you are just simply launching a product or launching a update or something new for your business, a good idea is to put a countdown timer associated with that launch so that people get anticipated. They get, the buzz starts going around. Maybe it drives that excitement and they start checking in to see when that thing is actually going to be released. And that concludes our, number 5, right? Which was countdown timers. We only have 2 more tips for you guys. The next one is going to be to use exit pops for last minute conversions. And have you ever gone to kind of a website to buy something and you were about to leave and a pop-up appeared that offered you a discount or trial? Well, this would be an example of an exit pop. Simply put, it is a pop-up that appears when somebody is going to leave your page. And it gives you really one last chance to change somebody's mind before they go and otherwise might not have, interacted with your business at all. And 2 very common types of exit pops are discounts or special offers. If you're doing something like a sales page, that's always a great option to put on there. Or lead magnets to grow your email list. So if it's not a sales page, if you're not selling anything, just a way to capture those contacts and get their contact information rather than losing them completely. Now, to add an exit pop to a page, all you have to do is actually go to the settings here. and you'll see pop-ups as one of the drop-down options within there. So if we go ahead and click our pop-ups here, you can see we have a landing pop-up option, which is when people are coming into the page. But let's talk about the exit pop-up, which is will show up when people are navigating away from the page. We hit this toggle to activate it. There are a few templates to choose from. So kind of, going through what kind of exit pop do you want to use, find a template that fits best structure for that and drag it in. So let's say we want to offer a discount. We can choose this one here. And look, it has a nice little countdown timer showing how long the offer is available for. And it has the discount code available for people to use to get that percentage, right? And again, this is going to pop up when people are leaving the page. Now to edit this, it's just like editing the page builder. You'll just go into components and drag in any text that you want to have in there. You can drag any images that you want to add in there, right? You're just kind of editing it like you would a standard page. And then to come back to it, all you have to do, like if you close out and you want to make sure that you edit it again, just come back to your settings and then you have your pop-ups and it should appear right there once you go to it. So hopefully that helps you with that. Now, the other option is the lead magnets. So say you're someone that wants to just capture people that are coming to your page, their contact information, because it's always a good idea to make sure that you are growing your email list. Maybe instead of losing someone completely when they would leave your page, you're offering them something for free, a little incentive, so that you can get their contact information and then you can nurture them over time, right? So if you are doing something like that, there are a bunch of other templates to choose from. I would just say maybe our latest ebook, if you're giving out something for free, right? Like an ebook, you can always do like a download where it's connected to a form and then they get to your download and then they're added to your email list. So just another option for you guys to make sure that you are not losing any potential leads. But I think it really shines with the discounts on a sales page just to give those people that extra incentive to make a purchase. Alrighty. Now, our last tip of the day is going to be OG metadata for attention-grabbing social shares. And OG metadata is like content or information that you're adding to a page that tells social media platforms how to display it when you share a link. So kind of think of it like a little preview of your page that appears whenever you post a link to social media. Here's an example of OG metadata, how it affects your page. So like here is a post in Facebook, and then below the post, we added a link. And it's going to show a nice cover image. It's going to show a headline and a little description. So to make sure that you are customizing this the way that you want it, all you have to do is enter your OG metadata in your page. To do that, you will go to settings again. And then the first option is SEO parameters. If we click on SEO parameters, there are a few options at the top, which are all for just standard SEO. But when you see this, like anything with OG in the title, that is referring to what we're talking about here, the social media sharing information. So the OG title is going to be your page's headline. So it's going to be this bold text here when we are posting a link. The description is going to be the body text. So it's going to be the text below the headline, this kind of light gray text down here. And then the page OG image is going to be this big cover image that shows up on the page when you're posting the link. And why this is helpful, it's always important to make sure you're adding this information before you're publishing your page or sharing it through any social media, is that if you don't enter this information, social media platforms like Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, they can pull random images from your page to use as the cover image, and they can pull random text to use as the headline and the description. So by entering this information yourself, you are ensuring that whenever you post a link to social media, it's always displaying the image and the information that you want there, that you want to be there, right? Instead of just some random information that the social media platform pulled. So always a good idea to make sure that you are completing this information before going live with your page, as it really makes an impact on how you're posting it to social media, makes your links a lot more clickable and pretty. And that was actually our last tip of the day. So kind of a quick little demo for you guys, about 30 minutes, just going through all of these different tips. But hopefully that really shows you how, even subtle things like spacing, rounding corners, and everything can add together to make, a huge visual impact on your page there. And it's really like this, like the Kartra page builder is designed to make building easy for everyone. So feel free to experiment a little bit, have fun, find the style that best fits your brand. And you'll not only create beautiful pages, but also pages that convert a little better for you as well. Because when a page is nice and people have a good experience coming to your page, kind of increases their trust and gives that kind of professional outlook that people see when they come and interact with your business. But with that, let's open it up for Q&A, right? So I'm sure you guys have plenty of questions about the page builder. Page builder has a bunch of other features that we didn't go over today. So we really want to open the floor to see what you guys have to ask, and we'll go through each of them in order. So let's go ahead and hop into that now. Shannon, if you want to help.
Yes, of course. So let's kick off with some of the questions we had around the first tip. And a lot of those seem to have to do with the template that we selected. Melody was actually asking, can you go back to the section with the 4 blocks? And how did you get those 4 blocks on that section? So this one.
Is it this one here?
Yep.
Gotcha. So this is actually a pre-built section template, and there are a bunch of them in Kartra that kind of have this custom layout, right, where you have kind of within a section, things side by side. But if you wanted to create something like this yourself, because you can see, like, if I'm hovering over this, I can't really edit it. There are a few sections in Kartra that are just custom coded to have this layout design, and you really can't edit it too much. You kind of have to work within those bounds. So I typically tell people, find a design that you like, because a lot of them, has the structure that's laid out for you, and you can work from there. If you want to make something like this, it's going to come back to using those invisible boxes, right? So typically, I don't know if we could put an icon above things, but we can definitely have content side by side like this by just going to boxes here and taking in a 50-50 box with 2 columns. We can drag it in. Oh, actually, if we look at this page, actually, I can see, oh, it's in 3 columns. Okay. So how they did it here is everything is set into a column. So this first column is going to be this box here. And these 2 columns are each going to have, there's a column with these 2 features in it and a column with these 2 features in it. So that is a good way that you could do it. The way that I was going to say is you could add a box with 2 sections within a specific column and have kind of this side-by-side view. But this actually makes it a little easier. So to set something up like this, all you got to make sure is that you have 2 columns side-by-side, and then you can just drag and drop a icon text into that column. So let's see here. If we were to go to components, we can get an icon here. Let's drag that in. And you can see it's centered right now, and we want it to the left side, kind of like this. So if we edit our icon, there should be a positioning, actually. It should, let me see if it's in the actual column here. Can edit it, top alignment, center. Now, yeah, so we can't pull the icon to the left side. So that would be like an example of a custom coded option. But we can definitely have our text in here, put it below, and now we have our icon above text, and we can kind of edit from there. But these, custom coded icons, it looks like they're pushed to the left side. So that's what I was saying is, like, a lot of these templates are custom coded. Find one that you like, edit it from there. If you want to create something like this, it would just be down to creating multiple columns and putting your content in those columns that people can navigate through. But you'll even find within the page builder, there are some limitations to how you can organize that content. So hopefully that helped. I know it wasn't exactly the answer you wanted to hear there.
Yeah, and Melody, one thing he did say is with this specific page, he selected a template when getting started. So this whole page, every single section was set up and customized the way it was designed. So if we actually scroll down to the overlaid image on the left side, actually it might have been up real
Talking about this one?
This one, yes.
Yeah.
What Melody was also wondering how that came together. So that looks like a custom block as well.
This is a full image. So this image is actually, it includes this and this. So like if I were to edit this style and change the image, it's going to change this image completely, like both options. So to create something like this, you would just use something like Canva, right? Where you have a nice visual editor where you can kind of create this style of an image in the background with an image on the forefront and then a transparent background, so that when you add that image to Kartra, it looks something like this, right? But this isn't something like you can't change this image in the background and then change this image in the forefront. This is kind of just an example of something that you can add to your page.
And the next question from Ken, and we had a couple other mobile specific ones, but does that side-by-side image work on mobile, the Ladybug one you set up?
Yes. So if we go to mobile and you see here, it's always going to put anything that has separate columns into different columns, right? So this one that's custom coded below, if you want, I would find a template. And this is why, typically when I'm building pages, I'll find like sections that I like. So, in this specific template, I like how these are side by side. So what you can do is if you like this and you want it to display like that in mobile view, I would save this section. So find one that has it, save it as a favorite, and then you can use this in any future pages that you have just by dragging and dropping it into that page. When you're using the page builder, right, there's just a lot of those custom coded sections that look unique to those sections that you just can't build yourself within the page builder unless you are a coder yourself. So this is how it's going to look within mobile view. Basically, every column that you have on a page is going to be stacked on top of the other. So if you want to maintain this look, find a nice template that has it and then save it for any future use that you have.
Right. Someone was also wondering, again, I think it's part of the page, how did you get those pricing guides and the content layout? So the add a section for the pricing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you add a section, there's tons of these sections. And these are the section templates that I'm talking about when it's like find a design that you like. You can go in here and look through a bunch of different options. My favorite are the content. If you just want content, or features are good layout for any features. But in this case, if you are doing any pricing, go down the pricing tables, and there are so many. You can scroll down for so long, but just a bunch of different layouts for how many plans you have available, and then an image next to your plan. So you can go through here to kind of find nice templates to use. And then when you find one that you like, let's say we like this one, just add directly in the page, and then all you have to do is edit the colors, change the text, go from there.
Perfect. Alyssa asks, where can you find GIF gradient backgrounds? And someone was also asking how to use images in dynamic again. So someone wanted to see how you did the dynamic images, if you just want to walk through that slowly, and then also go into where you found some of those.
Yeah, so I actually used a site that has a bunch of stock options or stock videos for free. I can look for that link and send it to you guys. Actually, I forget what the actual site is, but let me get that for you and I'll share it in the chat feed in a little bit. But yeah, if we go back to the dynamic background, so where do we have it up here? And we were to edit this background. You're going to want to do it under the video category if you have a video, or the image category if you have a GIF, whatever you want there. And then to use it, all you have to do is select the image. I don't think we have any GIFs uploaded to this account, so I won't be able to show you how a GIF would look. But you're basically doing the same exact process, just going to images, clicking select image, and then you can change the opacity if you want. Just make sure you're hitting apply to save your changes in there. If it's a video, all you do is select the video and then hit apply. It's actually pretty simple. So we'll hit edit, find the video that we want. So let's say we want to change it to this one, hit confirm, and then apply that. And now we have a different video in the background. And again, this is within the section background. So you can go to the section. It's always going to be the scroll cogwheel on the right-hand side. And then just hit edit in that to bring up the section background editor here. and it's going to be under the background tab.
Perfect. Yeah, and Annette asked the same thing. How did you create the color shade background video? Again, Alex is going to send the link to the stock site that he found some of those background videos on, so you guys can explore that after this session. So, Chris asked, can sound be added to a section on a page, like waves, for example? Someone else asked about sound as well. So just to cover that real quickly, I did a little research, Chris, and it looks like by default, most internet browsers automatically block sound when a page is loaded, just for privacy for people who are landing on page. But what I have seen people do is they'll upload a video file with sound or an audio file and point to click here to turn on the sound once they land on the page. So that is an option, but by default, most browsers will block sound automatically. So, another question we had was for the exit pop in the sales exit pop on the coupon code. Will the coupon code in the sales exit pop-up be generated automatically, and how will it later connect to be applicable to the sale? Which is a great question. Annette.
Yeah. So if we're talking about this one here, where if we have this coupon code, no, this does not generate automatically. You have to set this up within your Kartra account. So this code, obviously, it's just kind of a default placeholder. You would change this to whatever code that you have created in your account. To kind of show you guys how that looks, so I'll just return to the dashboard real quick. Doesn't matter if we save. If we go down to sales products, you have your products that you've set up, and then you'll see another tab in the top for coupons. So just click that tab, and then you're able to create a coupon for a specific product. So you're able to create what the coupon code is going to be. You can set what the discount type is, and then what the discount is associated with, right? What product is going to, and then you can set an expiration rule. So you can say if you're doing a countdown, it's by date, and then we set our date that it's going to expire on. So you're setting up your coupon codes within your product section of your account, and then you're just adding that code to that section of the page manually when you're editing it there.
Great. And we also had another exit pop-up question by Ken. He asked if exit pops work on mobile. And this is another one I just did a little research on for you. And it does look like that most exit pops are not intended to work on mobile because they're reliant on the desktop mouse movement. So when you're doing mobile, thinking of things like using that countdown timer or a coupon code or something to encourage them to engage or to take action. Those are recommendations for your mobile specific promotions too. So using some of the other tips that we had today could also help, drive urgency and increase conversions potentially.
Yeah. And guys, I'm going to put a link in the chat. Let me just type it in there. This is where I got some free dynamic background videos. So it's pexels.com. There's probably a bunch of other, systems like it out there. So you could probably find something similar, but this is what I used to find all three of the examples that I showed you. And it's cool. They have different search features, different categories. So you can just find stock videos to add to your pages there. And they're very high definition. So.
Thanks, Alex. We have a few more questions. I'm going to get to Jen's question. She asked tips or best practices for mobile optimization. So I don't want to go into that too much right now, but I do want to take it as a note. We have talked about maybe a future event on like mobile optimization for your pages specifically, because there are a ton of details we can get into. But in the meantime, if you do have that specific question, I encourage you to reach out to our support team, and we can provide you with tips as well by emailing support@kartra.com. So Jen, great question. And as feedback, we are going to take it as a potential future event as we continue to host these Learn Kartra Lives. Another question we have was about uploads from Canva uploading blurry in Kartra. Will Kartra enable drag and drop images like Canva one day? If something is uploading blurry, Alex, do you have any recommendations?
Yeah, it usually just comes down to file size. The larger the file size that you can get out of Canva, the better. Because if you're, say, for example, you got a 500 by 500 pixel and you're adding that to Kartra, if it's not going to be a small image like this, right? Like down here where we have this very small image, it's going to look blurry if you scale it up to the size of like, you know, a typical screen is typically like 1920 by 1280. And that's not including like the screens that people have now, which are like 4K, right? So the smaller your file image is, the blurrier it's going to be. That's fine for small little icon images and things like that. But if you want it to be a big image on your page and not be blurry, the larger the file size, the better. The more pixels you can get in there, the better.
Can you also show how to resize an image while we're on the page builder specifically while we're talking about that?
Yeah, so here's an image that we have here, right? Again, this is the whole image is this box. To resize it, all you do is you'll see this resize option when you're hovering over an image, and it'll be the full size and you can make it smaller, right? So we can bring this down or we can bring it up based on how large we want the image to be. Same goes for like any image on the page. Like if we wanted to make this ladybug smaller, we could scale it down to the size of, you know, the other one there. But basically, yeah, the resize, you can really only go smaller. That's why I'm saying have your image as large as you want, and then you can always scale it down based on that. The other big thing is going to be logo images, right? Because I know, like for example, in your Kartra account, you can upload a logo to your account, but that file size is still, you know, pretty small. If you add that to a page, it might look blurry. So typically I'll have like a larger version of that logo that I'll have for my pages, just so that it looks nice and crisp on the page builder.
That's great tip. We have another question from Annette, and I think it's going to have to do with the way this was set up. So I have a pre-designed sign-in form already made. So she created a form. Now I want to put it on my page, but this option does not seem to exist. I can only choose Kartra templates and not my pre-designed form, which is listed alongside my pages on my page side. So what I'm thinking is she created a form that's a pop-up form in the form builder.
Gotcha, yeah.
Versus the form template.
Yeah, so if we go to contacts forms in our account here, and let's just click this one, for example. I guess we'll have to create a new form just to kind of show you guys those options real quick. All right, so you can see that when you're creating a form, you have a few different options, right? You have the embedded option, and this is going to be like embedded on a page. You have the modal option, which is going to pop up. Sidebar, which is going to pop up in the side, bottom bar, which will pop up in the bottom. It sounds to me like you want to have your form embedded on a page, meaning they don't have to click a button. The form is just there. If that's the case, you'll want to create the embedded type of form. That way you can add it directly to your page. If you do the modal option, yeah, it's always going to pull that template there. Now, even if you do this embedded option and you're like, you know, you can choose the design here, that when you do the embedded option, this design won't matter because it's only going to be the form itself that you're embedding to the page. This design really only matters if you're doing a pop-up modal or something like that, where the actual design can actually be pulled up with the template. If you're doing the embedded option, and I'll show you here, like if we go back to our page, because we do have an embedded form on this template, and we were to edit our page template here. Go. It's going to be in this second section. Okay, so right here you can see we have a placeholder form. This is where we can put an embedded form onto our page, right? So if we were to edit this placeholder, once it loads here, just waiting for the page to load, or let me just drag and drop a new one in. This is not reacting. Drag and drop our plain form or embeddable option. Let's do embeddable, drag and drop it in, and then we can replace this with our embeddable option form. So if we go to form, open builder, it's going to pull from our account here. And you see, you don't really have the design options for it. It's just going to pull the form itself when you're linking it to that. The other way, if you want it to be a pop-up, and let me just see, yeah, I can edit this now, finally loaded. The only thing, if you want it to be a pop-up, would be to use a button. And then like you have a button here, if we were to edit this, you can do link and pop an opt-in form. And then when we do this, you're able to drag a template in, or I don't think you can pull the actual template from the form builder though. So yeah, that would be something to mention there. But you're dragging and dropping the template in, and then you're editing the form to put the form onto the page. So we can say, it's this form, right? But you're still choosing the design within the page builder itself. I think the design in the form builder really only matters if you're using the form outside of Kartra, because yeah, you're still going to have to kind of design it within the page builder.
And Amanda was saying that if you go to components, you can go to forms, and you should be able to still select that one you designed if you click like the modal or.
Yeah, so they've updated the page builder. If you go to forms and select not the plain form, but the embedded modal sidebar or bottom bar, those will pull from the one that you have designed in the form builder itself. So if you designed it using the form builder, there's the option to pull the designed form. You don't use the default form placeholder. Go to forms components, and then you'll be able to find the designed ones in there. They updated it not that long ago.
Awesome. Thank you, Amanda.
Sweet. Okay, and thank you, Annette, for your question. Joe had a question. We got 2 questions left, and then we will be wrapping up. He was asking, are there SEO disadvantages to building your website on Kartra versus WordPress? And this is a great question, and a lot of it is business specific. So what I would recommend with your specific question is actually joining our Kartra Facebook community. I'm going to get you the link for that. And I encourage you to go to that group and, ask what people recommend for, their business specific and how they're using SEO on their pages. When it comes to Google searches, etc. So I will get that link to the community if you're not already in there. And I would encourage you to bring that question there. I think it could highlight things for other users as well. So. And then finally, our last question is there a size guide somewhere for image size recommendations for different applications? We have heard this question before. I'll let Alex explain, but the short answer is there's different sizes recommended for various, places in Kartra. So go ahead.
Yeah, it really depends on the type of image that you're referring to, right? If it's just an image that's going on your page, larger the better, and you can always resize from there, right? If it's a background image, that's where it gets really hard, because it's like, depending on how large your section background is, like, you can see that this section is pretty tall, where if we go to like another section, it's pretty short, right? Like this section down here. So how long your section is going to be is also going to affect the background image that you're putting in the background of a page. So typically when it comes to background images, a little trick that you can do to make sure that your image is the size, like if you have a large image and you want to make sure it's taking up the whole screen, just increasing the padding of your page or decreasing it to fit the size of that image. The other thing would be just to play around with it, right? If it's too long, just resizing it in whatever image platform that you have, re-uploading it to Kartra, and then seeing it from there. Background images are always going to be very hard, typically with like a video like this, right? They're kind of easier because you're always using like the 1920 by, range on these. So that's typically the width, but the height can always vary just depending on the content on your page. So just a little trial and error. Even I feel like page building experts kind of have to play around with their images every now and then to get them the right size to fit.
Great. And Melody had one quick last question, and then we will wrap up because we are coming up to the top of the hour. If you need to crop an image, does it have to be done before upload, or is there a way to select just part of the image to show?
Yeah, you got to do it before, because basically with Kartra, it's like a file host, right? It's not a file editor. So, if you're uploading an image, you're not able to really edit that image once it's in Kartra. You have to kind of just edit it outside, upload that new version in Kartra, and then you can use that version, select it as an image.
And thank you, Alex. That is all the questions we had today. The 7 tips were really awesome. Some great feedback. Love this. Thanks for hosting. Do more of these. You also, have supported a lot of people with some great tips today. So thank you so much for the time and effort.
Awesome. Yeah. Glad I was able to help you guys. And thank you all for joining us, right? These Learn Kartra Lives, like Shannon said, we're always looking for new ideas that you guys have. So I think the mobile optimization one is a great one that we can do in the future because, it does get a little complicated. And it would be good to kind of show you guys how to really optimize your pages for mobile devices, since that's really how a lot of people are going to be finding them. The other thing too is if there's anyone in this call that isn't a Kartra user, you can scan the QR code below to get a free trial. Otherwise, if you are a Kartra user, thank you very much for joining, and we hope that you can take these tips and implement them into your pages, right? Go through any pages that you have, see if there's any ways that you can implement these to enhance the overall aesthetic and, perception of your page that people see when they go to it. And let us know how it works. If you are finding success or if your pages look a lot better, share that with us. You can always send us a message. We're here to chat. Let's see your success, cheer you on. We want to see you guys, make the most of the platform. But yeah, thank you all again for joining. It has been a pleasure, and hopefully we will see you in the next one. We're going to be running these about once a month, so keep an eye out for the notifications in your account and any emails for that next announcement. And hopefully you all have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.